Hello there. Welcome to the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of MetricsCart. I'm Shrestha and I'm back with another episode where we ask the big questions to some of the world's leading e-commerce experts.
So, with over 2 decades of experience in the e-commerce space, today's guest has worked with some of the biggest names in the beauty and healthcare, including leadership roles in Johnson & Johnson and the Estee Lauder companies. Currently, she's focused on helping brand manufacturers to help them slay e-commerce strategies, building high-performance teams, and mentoring professionals to excel in their e-commerce careers, and so much more, actually. I'm so thrilled to have you here, Jennifer Alexander. So let's just dive in.
Absolutely. It's great to be here, Shasta. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So to give our listeners some more context, could you tell us a bit more about your whole e-commerce journey?
Yeah, my e-commerce journey has, it started over 20 years ago. And I've really been in a number of different e-commerce, I would say, sort of subcategories. So I've run direct to consumer e-commerce, I've run retail e-commerce, and I've also worked in B2B e-commerce. I've done it both working directly for brands, working as a consultant, and really had the opportunity to see a number of different applications for e-commerce. And so I like to think of myself as not necessarily a specialist in any one e-commerce area, but someone who can look at e-commerce or look at a business problem and understand how a different facet or different facets of e-commerce might be able to help solve that business problem. So a little bit of a generalist in a number of areas, but probably well versed in several, certainly enough to be a bit dangerous.
Right. Uh, you've been around for more than 20 years in this industry, and you've seen firsthand how the upper funnel awareness and the lower level conversions used to happen back in the physical stores. And right now, maybe I suppose after the pandemic, it's moved to an omni-channel strategy. And if you talk more presently, it's become a unified e-commerce structure. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the omni retail experience for consumers has really evolved when you think about what physical versus digital looks like. And post COVID, that's starting to look even more different. I think customers are certainly shopping in store again. They're really there for that experience. They've told us they want to shop in physical retail, at least sometimes, or at least really for some of their needs, right? Physical retail isn't necessarily going anywhere, but it does need to look different. And when I think about it, and when I speak to shoppers and speak to brands and retailers about what it is that they're looking for, one of the things that really comes in is and is talked about a lot is that when shoppers go into and shop in physical location, they're still expecting some of those COVID era, I call efficiencies. And what really happened during COVID when you really couldn't go into a store, of course. And so there were a lot of efficiencies and there were a lot of, I guess, experiences that started to happen sort of in a digital physical way. And so some of those efficiencies being really simple and not too complicated from a shopper perspective, right? Show me what's in stock at my store. Can I pick it up? Can I have it delivered in an hour? all of those are still very true, even though the restrictions from COVID are not in place anymore. But the shoppers still want that type of physical, I guess, physical shopping experience, likely for, convenience, efficiency, all of the reasons why. And you see, that's where you really see some brand manufacturers, some retailers really winning in this space, really prioritizing that transformation that's needed to meet that shopper expectation, right? Again, to a shopper, that's not complicated. I should be able to know if you have, something in stock and I can go quickly pick it up on my way home, for example, or I can get it delivered. But when you think about that from a major, retailer perspective or from a brand perspective, when you have hundreds of thousands of SKUs that you're trying to keep track of, that's where it becomes really challenging. And, prioritizing that transformation to meet that shopper expectation and all of the back end systems that have to be connected, all of the real time data that you need to be able to make, again, what should be fairly simple from a shopper perspective. Do you have this in stock? Can I pick it up right now? What aisle is it in? Is exactly what needs to happen. And again, some brand manufacturers, some retailers are really winning in this space and doing a great job. And others I think are hopefully picking up that ball and really starting to run with it.
Right. Like you said, it's from a shopper perspective, it's just a simple thing. Is the product available? Am I getting it where I want it? That's it. That's all that it is. But we are in the holiday season right now, and you must have seen firsthand the kind of challenges that brand manufacturers face. So, what does the day in the life of a brand manufacturer or a manager might look like?
Yeah. It is for me right now as we record this podcast about as hectic as it can possibly get. I think for myself and other e-commerce brand managers, right? We're just juggling probably a million different things. And if you're like most e-commerce brand managers, you've been planning holidays since the day holiday ended last year. Maybe you took a short break. Hopefully you did. But right now, where we are, as we're recording this in the middle of November, you're running through each and every one of your contingency plans that you've set up. And hopefully you've set up a number of them, right, to help you meet your demand and meet the demands of the shopper. Right now, what am I looking at on a daily and sometimes even hourly basis? It's, looking at traffic maybe and adjusting my email calendar and my email plans, reviewing my inventory and possibly making adjustments to the promotions that we're running. Maybe mini adjustments, maybe adding an extra day, maybe taking a day off if we're so lucky from a promotion. And then you're looking at sales and adjusting spend, right? Quite hopefully, because, that's where P&L management and that's where good, fiscal responsible e-commerce management comes in to really say, what are my sales? How much is it costing me? And, how can I be more efficient each and every day? And, for some people in real time, each and every hour or minute. Certainly a lot of retailers I know are looking at this on a minute by minute basis. So what are we doing? We're studying those KPIs, we're building our insights, and we're executing the play to optimize that based on everything that we've planned for and hopefully the contingency plans that we've put in place to be able to adjust as needed. So like I said, it's about as hectic as it can possibly be. It's incredibly fun though, and incredibly rewarding when you see that a program that you've put into place pays off and it reaches the right shoppers and what they're looking for.
Right. So, like you said, it's hectic, and at the same time, it could be rewarding too. So,
Yes.
when it
It
comes
is.
to both the omni-channel space, like the physical as well as the digital commerce space. How has the industry evolved, and how do you think both coexist? Are there learnings that brand manufacturers can apply in both the places?
Yeah, I think it's moving so fast right now. So I just said it's hectic for me. But the industry as a whole is moving at, lightning speed. It's a pace that, we really didn't I mean, maybe we thought it would happen. Of course we did. I mean, of course we did. We thought it would happen. But ultimately, I think the way and really what's happening is comes down to what I would say is choice. And there's a couple different types of choice that I think of when I think about e-commerce. And the first one is consumer choice, right? So consumers and shoppers have so much more choice, so much more than they've had before. And part of that is because the barrier to entry for e-commerce is almost non-existent now, right? Brands can open an e-commerce store in days, not months, not years, like it maybe used to take. And that's really helping to fuel that consumer choice. There's simply so many more brands that are available online, more retailers that are available online, where, let's say, physical location of that brand or of the shopper just isn't a factor, right? So you can be getting, your coffee from Colombia and have it shipped to you, and getting your sundries from, other sundries from just around the corner. And that choice and that ability for the shoppers to be able to see and recognize and find brands, right, that they might not have known about before, is certainly something that's fueling, this choice that we have as a consumer, and the choices that those consumers really have. Um, I think the other bit of choice is really interesting because it comes through on the technology side. So that idea of launching an e-commerce store overnight, well, it happened, I think, in part because of the choice that now brands have and how they either build or extend their e-commerce stores. If you want to take your local bakery online, that's not a problem anymore. You can do that. If you want to sell in another country, right?
Yeah.
Why not? And, if you're a major retailer and want to have real-time insights from your sales, in a marketplace, of course you can.
Possible.
So yes, it's absolutely possible. And there's so many more tools that brands and retailers have in order to help them execute. And so that e-commerce really, or digital or omni-channel technology innovation has also skyrocketed. Those two, when you put them together, right? The idea of, a brand being able to go online, that barrier of entry not being there because you have these great tools now and a lot of great services to be able to run your e-commerce store, kind of just cycle through and back and forth, if you will. So more brands going online equal more services for those brands, equals then more requests for new services from those brands through their technology partners and their vendors. And then it keeps growing. Really, it's flywheeling, if you will, after that. And so, I don't necessarily see that bit slowing down. It may, and it certainly is consolidating from a technology perspective. But that's really, you know, that pace, if you will, is really happening across the board. And you can take that and move that into an omni-channel environment where your retailer has, both physical and a digital location. And those services are there and available for that retailer too, to be able to put in place and then serve that omni-channel customer. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that that pace and that choice that consumers have is also really what's contributing to the slowing of just e-commerce growth overall. When you think about it from a brand's perspective or a retailer's perspective, right? If e-commerce is set to grow, you can say anywhere from like 4 to 7% maybe this year and next year. And that's certainly slowed from years past. That greater, if you will, shopper choice and that greater supply of brands and retailers that they can choose from is really essentially really what it's doing is just saying, well, I don't have a bigger, as a shopper, I don't have a bigger pocketbook to spend more money. So they're really spreading their spend across more brands, more retailers. And so, everyone, of course, is seeing that slow growth in some way, shape, or form, especially when you think about direct to consumer. But that the pace, if you will, is still continuing to grow. It's just a matter of how you, I guess, as a manufacturer and a retailer can capture that spend and that pocketbook of that shopper.
That makes a lot of sense, Jennifer. So there is this perception about the digital shelf that it's a highly optimized, complex, data-driven place. Uh, it's a perception as well as a truth as well. So at MetricsCart, we focus extensively on studying customer reviews and even optimizing the product listings. So, how, according to you, are these digital shelf metrics important and critical for the brand manufacturers during this holiday season?
Yeah. Well, for ratings and reviews, they're quite literally your customers telling you exactly how they feel and exactly what they think about your product. So you have this, almost like focus group, if you want to use that term, that brands can and should be using to optimize, right? How a brand chooses to read through that feedback and help them understand, how their product fits to better write those product details, or, taking AI to read through the ratings and reviews based on that and write better product details is exactly a use case that brands should be thinking about. Maybe a product is hard to assemble, and that's what you're hearing back in the ratings and reviews. So how can that prompt brands to include better instructions? Another one, thinking about the holiday season right now, if, the item is a gift, right? And you're reading that in ratings and reviews, well, brands should be using that to unlock new merchandising ideas and different merch strategies so that they can understand if something's giftable or not, right? Maybe you've intended it as a gift, but people are self-purchasing, et cetera, right? The list can go on. And, you mentioned that it's where you focus, and certainly, thinking about that and looking at digital shelf metrics, there's a lot of brands out there that think that this is, complicated. So really what I would say is it's really just up to those brands, those retailers, whichever you are, to just read and action on that data. And that is unfortunately where I find some just fall short. Perhaps it's not part of their regular KPIs or their executive report. Maybe it's that the brands don't have the right tools to summarize that data and create meaningful insights. But certainly when I lead brands, um, ratings and reviews is one of my top KPIs to report on and really make sure the entire organization understands it, because they are incredibly powerful. And the insights that you can create aren't just about how you optimize your digital shelf or your product page. They can help you optimize your supply chain. Those insights and what you hear from your customers can help optimize your customer service team, your product, your product innovation. Really, it can really help, from the very start of your product and your innovation cycle all the way through to the last mile and getting it to your shoppers, your customers' doorstep. And so again, I think that's really one of the things that I would encourage brands and retailers to really look at on a regular basis to understand, because it's literally their customer telling them, "This is what I think about you. This is what I think about your product."
Yeah. And that's the closest that a brand can get to their customer by listing attributes.
Exactly.
Yeah. What shopper trends do you think we can expect this season? Okay, with that, there's a lot of price sensitivity and uh, there is discounting going on. Yet, I think early on today, I read something on Forbes that even though you discount, it doesn't mean that you discount your entire catalog. It might be just for your new product launches. Like you need to be really meticulous how you use it.
Yeah. And you absolutely, hit, one thing that is, obviously going to come this holiday season, right? Shoppers are looking for deals. And retailers will absolutely deliver on that. You've already see that started here in mid-November. And they've moved that promotional period earlier and earlier, hoping, I think, to win share of a shopper's wallet earlier, right? A shopper's wallet, their pocketbook, is not necessarily getting bigger. And so trying to, make, brands trying to ensure that they've captured that share of wallet earlier is absolutely something that you do see sort of from a brand and from a retailer um, perspective. And I love what you said about that idea of, it might not be your entire catalog. And, there's a great example that where I'm dealing with right now with a brand that I work with. And, we have a marquee product for this season. And truly, we're doing everything that we can to sell through that product before Cyber Week, and sell it at a full price because the product is worth it. It is our marquee item. And if we can do that and promote it in a way that isn't discounted, and the margin that we have on that is good, then, we can go into the start of Black Friday and, go through Cyber Week, knowing that we have that win and that might not be the item that's discounted, and you feel really good about that. So I think it does come down to a very tactical approach, SKU by SKU, category by category, looking at that P&L very closely to say where could I potentially offer that shopper the discount that they're looking for, but where as a brand am I not going to do that is just as important. And so that's something that I think brands certainly do on a fairly regular basis. I also think there's going beyond just that deal and discount space. There's this desire for shoppers to have recognition. And recognition is both loyalty, which I'll get to in a minute, but also recognition as in personalization. So, shoppers are telling us, if you know who I am and you know what I want, make that worthwhile to me during my shopping experience. In other words, take those cookies that I've accepted and do something with them. Show me what I might be interested in, speak directly to me, and personalize my shopping experience, right? So that idea of recognition, being recognized who I am, and 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 understand that, and help me make more informed decisions about your products, and help me choose what products might be right for me. And then, like I said, going back to that loyalty piece, and a little bit about what I spoke about earlier too when I talked about choice, is shoppers have that choice, right? The brands they buy, where they buy them, how frequently they purchase. And shoppers they understand they have these choices. They know that they have that upper hand. And in some cases, yes, a shopper will choose convenience as to where to shop. In other cases, it will be price. Um, but if I'm a shopper and I'm making a choice to shop with you and I do it over and over again, recognize me as a shopper for that, reward me for that loyalty in some way, shape, or form. And I love to use examples when I'm talking about the digital space that are physical store or physical examples. And so, imagine that you've gone to the same restaurant twice a month for a year, right? That might be the case for many, many folks. But how long do you think it should take the host or maybe the wait staff or even a manager to recognize that you're a regular at that restaurant? What's your threshold for that? And shoppers online want the same recognition. You might not have that face to face conversation with a person in store or in a restaurant or wherever it is. But as a brand, as a retailer, you have all the same data, if you will, about that shopper. So it's not going to look the same as a host seating you at your favorite table, but retailers should be using that data to really make sure that the shoppers have the best possible experience online. The same way a host or a hostess or a manager would do the same for someone who's come into a restaurant, twice a month or once a week, for an entire year. So I think it's about that idea of, personalizing and just being recognized for what it is that you're doing online as a shopper. And I think brands that can take that and translate that into a great experience are the ones that are going to win this holiday season.
Wow, that's just a beautiful way of putting it through, Jennifer. Uh, can we also say that it's more common among the younger generations? They want this level of personalization and definitely choice. Choice is common to all the generations, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. And I think it's just a matter too of you know, for a younger generation sort of growing up with this um growing up with e-commerce being, just something that again they grew up with. And so I do think that expectation may be maybe a bit higher. It might just be more like natural again because they did grow up with it, that's what their expectation is. And I can say fairly certainly that expectation isn't going to be lowered anytime soon. It is going to keep going up. That bar is going to keep being raised, um for whatever it is that's next, for retailers and brands to really make sure that they're not only meeting but exceeding a shopper expectations.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for your time. And it was such a value-packed session. Where do you think our listeners can find you?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jennifer R. Alexander, and absolutely reach out if you have any questions or want to talk more about this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Rashta. Appreciate the time.
And that's the end of our episode. If you love what you just listened, you can follow us on LinkedIn. And oh, we also have a monthly email newsletter with the super exclusive e-commerce insights. This podcast is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. Wherever you're listening from, have a great day. We'll be back with a killer guest next week.